And Liverpool's king to the top are champions of Europe once again.
And finally, we have some actual present tense content to talk about after 3.5 months, 105 days without football. The rain is back in Ireland, but so is the football. So who really gives a shiza? It's going to be a Goodison derby with a twist. No fans, obviously, and we've had a taste of that so far. As usual, I've got Liverpool fan Anto Pine with me. Anto, how are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to getting back a bit of action the weekend. That's a real clumsy way of saying it, but yeah, looking forward to watching Liverpool again.
And I've got Graham Nolan here, who at some point of this show I will call Graham Norton. It'll just be a slip of the tongue. I promise you, Graham. He's not on my mind. We're buzzing for this to finish because we were relieved that it wasn't going to be null and void. Are you as excited for this to start up, or if they told you now it'll just have to wait till August, would you give it to us?
Well, I'm excited for it to restart because, just in general terms, it's like indicates that things are getting back to some sense of normality. I wouldn't think I'm as excited as any Liverpool fans because Everton have no potential of winning anything this season. So it's only a matter of time before Liverpool are celebrating the title. So yes, I'm excited for the return of football. Very much looking forward to seeing the match at the weekend. But maybe not as excited as Liverpool fans.
I'll second that. I'll speak for all Liverpool fans out there and say that I don't think there's any Everton fan that are as excited as us. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about obviously what we could expect from the game, what we've made of the project restart so far. Try and guess what the teams will be, judging on how they've kind of done in some of the friendlies that they've been playing, and then we'll give a score prediction. So Anto, we've had about 3 weeks of Bundesliga kind of behind closed doors. It's there for all to see, but it's empty stadiums and all that. What have you made of it so far, and what did you make of the first night back of the Premiership?
Well, you called it, I think, Anto, ahead of the Premier League coming back, that you've watched probably more Bundesliga games than me, but I think when they initially came back, there was that feeling of players, they just weren't quite ready. And the whole thing is a little bit odd anyway. They have to adjust to the fact that there's no fans and the whole protocols around these games. So it was a little bit of like a weird friendly vibe to the games, but they have improved in terms of the intensity and the pace of the games. They have improved as they've gone on, and I expect the same from the Premier League. I mean, I watched the 2 games on Wednesday evening, and it is just something that everybody has to acclimatise to. It's just a little bit odd. I mean, even the whole thing of like, do you turn the crowd noises on or not? It's a very different view.
Which do you prefer?
Experience. I was dead against the crowd noises. I thought they were ridiculous, and now I can't watch them without the crowd noises. I've come completely around to it. I think it's too soulless without some kind of background noise, and you can kind of trick yourself into thinking there's a bit of normality about it. So I think the 2 games we've seen, especially the Villa Sheffield United game, particularly. I say that because that was such a massive game, like one team fighting for their lives, Sheffield United going for the top 4. Like, I think in normal circumstances at a bouncing Villa Park, that game would have been a bit of a rip-roarer. It never really was. Like, so I just think it will take a couple of weeks before we start to see the games at a better tempo, and that first couple of rounds might be a little bit pedestrian.
And Graham, what did you make of the first 2 games on Wednesday night?
I actually watched it without the fan noise in the background. I started to watch.
It's not that weird with the Man City game because we're kind of used to not much noise coming out of that stadium, though.
Well, it was when I heard that they're using, like, I don't know if it's a FIFA soundtrack or whatever. It just sounded a little bit soundtracky for me, so I might switch again. But anyway, I found with the first match, I mean, obviously it's very strange watching it without the crowd. And I found the first match, it was like in the first 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, there's like this big energy dump from the players. They're just running around like lunatics because it's the first match they played in a long, long time. And then it settled down to a pretty pedestrian kind of pace. I thought Villa were probably the better team overall, but we obviously had that crazy incident where Hawkeye didn't work for the Sheffield United goal. The second match then...
The David Luiz show.
Well, yeah, Jesus. I mean, sideshow Bob. But, yeah, I mean, it turned into a fairly routine Man City win. That was about disappointing from a spectacle point of view, but I think Arsenal tend to choke against those bigger teams. So I think it was weird watching it without the matches. I thought in both games there was that kind of big, fast start, which quickly dissipated. I think, again, it's just the players probably are just that excited to be playing again. They just kind of had a bit of an energy dump, and then both matches settled down to a fairly pedestrian pace. So hopefully the derby at the weekend will have a bit more of a more entertaining game anyway.
Exactly. And Anto, this being a derby, I mean, it's not going to be like any derby we've ever seen before. So is this the best or the worst kind of fixture to be coming straight back after like 3.5 months of no football? I mean, what would it be better to play at an empty Anfield and, you know, play a team that was kind of dead and buried, or is this even going to resemble any kind of derby in any way, do you think?
No, I think it would be better if they were playing, like, maybe, let's say, a mid-table team with not so much to play for, because Everton are really want to beat Liverpool. You know, they don't want to lose to Liverpool, and there's a lot of animosity. Even today, there was a few Richarlison comments were floating around, which has got everybody sparked up on social media. But like, it's, you know, they're not gonna. They've got a very cute, canny manager as well. So I actually think it's going to be a draw. I know you're going to get to predicted results later, but I don't think it's going to be. I think it will be an awkward one for Liverpool. You know, we as I said to you before, Anton, we don't know how all the players are going to react coming out of this. I know Liverpool looks sharp and trained and that, but it's a good point that Graham makes, because it's a danger for Liverpool that they do, as he says, like this energy dump in the first 15-20 minutes where you're just mad to go. You can tell they're mad to get out. They want to win this league. They want to wrap it up. But it is a danger that you come out, you're running all over the place, you're full of beans, and then you suddenly the legs go empty because they haven't played in 3 months, and there is the danger that could happen. So I think it might be a fairly a scrappy, not a great game on Sunday, and I think it's going to be a draw.
Right. Well, Graham, Liverpool haven't been beaten in any derby, home or away, since 2010, and that was when Roy Hodgson was in charge. So it kind of doesn't count if so. But we actually don't have a very good record at Goodison Park. I think we've only won one of the last 6, and that was a goal in the 94th minute, and it was a very lucky goal, the Mane one. So does this benefit? And, you know, Liverpool don't look themselves when they go to Goodison. It's a little bit like, I suppose it's a little bit like when Everton go to Anfield. Like, they just, we go there sometimes in good form, and we just, I don't know, it's maybe it's the occasion gets to them, or the crowd. So is this going to benefit Liverpool, maybe the fact that it's going to be an empty Goodison? Because they don't play their normal game, like, no matter who we've had in charge there at Liverpool. Does this, or the fact that it's just going to be kind of man on man with no kind of 12th man there, could this be maybe tip the scales in Liverpool's way?
Yeah, I mean, I think the circumstances surrounding this match, and indeed Project Restart, I mean, has any Merseyside derby ever been harder to predict what's going to happen? You know what I mean? It's very, very hard one to call. I mean, I think with the result last night with Man City winning, in some ways, I think it's kind of better for Everton in that we've literally no pressure on us, right? So we're not, Liverpool are favourites to win the league. They're probably favourites to win the match. So from my point of view, it's just a free hit for Everton. I think just go out, play your game, And I don't think you're not going to see a lot of variation in tactics. Everton since Ancelotti's come in has played 4-4-2. He'll play 4-4-2 at the weekend, I'm sure. And it'll be the same. It'll be a continuation of what he's been doing already. So I do kind of see it as a free hit for Everton. Hopefully the players kind of see it as a free hit as well. And just go out and play without any pressure. I know we're kind of preempting our predictions here, but just following on from what Anta was saying, 6 of the last 7 Goodison derbies have been draws. So perhaps, when we're making predictions, we're probably preempting because we're probably all going to say a draw. But
they're rarely a good game as well, though, aren't they? They're rarely a good spectacle. Like they're usually 0-0 or just there's not a lot of football played.
Yeah, I think this was something I mentioned to you when we previously spoke, in that I tend to see Merseyside derbies as not very high on quality, very scrappy, competitive, but they're still entertaining because there's a lot of tension there and there's a lot of usually quite a bit of niggle in the match, which is entertaining. So I'd separate entertainment with quality in that sense. I can't see this match at the weekend being a very, very high quality match with lovely flowing football.
I agree.
But I could see it being quite competitive and quite close, and maybe a bit of niggly after Richarlison's comment. Which, I mean, whatever you say about them, it's added to the kind of anticipation of the match at the very least,
Exactly. How do Everton look going into this? I mean, obviously neither team has played for 3.5 months, but the vibes that we're getting out of the Liverpool camp, we saw them, it was Blackburn, but they looked sharp, and there was some players that, have been kind of frozen out, like Minamino is played well, and Keita's looking really sharp. What's the vibe from the Everton camp? Because you've got a few injuries going into this. And the kind of the news breaking today that Fraser is probably going to come from Bournemouth. So how do things look good for Everton going into this, or do you reckon they need a couple of games in an ideal world to kind of go into this one?
Yeah, well, I mean, Ryan Fraser is coming from Bournemouth, according to Ryan Fraser. I mean, that's the only place I've heard it from. So whether it happens or not, I don't know.
It's going to be awkward if he doesn't now.
Yeah, but the last game that we played before the break was the worst performance of Ancelotti's short tenure. That was against Chelsea, where we just didn't turn up. We were pretty abject. So I think while the break was enforced and none of us would have wanted it to happen, it probably happened at a good time for Everton, whereby we could regroup and Ancelotti could work on the team and the structure, etc. Yeah, we do have issues with injuries. It wouldn't be Everton without that. We're missing Yerry Mina at the back, which means our only fit centre halves are Holgate and Michael Keane. Michael Keane, who is hot and cold anyway, but is always freezing cold against Liverpool. So that's a concern. Delph is injured, Cabanon's injured, Schneiderlin's injured, Walcott is injured. So
who's going to be the holding midfielders? Is it going to be Davis and Schneiderlin?
Typically, he's played Sigurdsson in the central midfield, where I'd get rid of Sigurdsson Percy. I don't think he offers as much, particularly when he's playing that bit deeper. I prefer, like, Gomez had a niggle but should be fit. So I wouldn't predict the team, but I would prefer to see him alongside Davies, because I think you're just going to need legs running around him, and that's what Davies would give you over Sigurdsson. One thing that might happen, you were talking about, players kind of playing their way back into the team. I think, particularly with Everton, you're going to see quite a few fringe players getting played before the end of the season, one of which would be a young Everton player called Anthony Gordon, who's a winger type, inside right type player. So with Walcott out, he might potentially start, because he's had a couple of appearances. Ancelotti's on record of saying that he likes them, so he might throw him into this match. And he's a local lad as well. So that's the only left field selection that I could potentially think of. Otherwise, it's going to be 4-4-2 with a very predictable back four. The only arguments then is who might play out on one of the wings, who's going to play alongside Gomez in midfield. They're the only kind of positions up for grabs, I would say.
And Anto, like I mentioned, Keita, there's a lot of buzz around him, but we've heard that we've been hearing that ever since before we signed them. We heard a year of buzz coming from Germany and watching the YouTube videos of him, and obviously injuries, he hasn't really delivered, considering he's wearing Steven Gerrard's old number going into this. So would you play him? Would you play Minamino? Would you throw a curveball in general with the first? Bear in mind that there's 5 substitutions that they can make. What kind of team would you pick for this?
Yeah, I would play Keita. I think this is a really good opportunity for him now, because he does look very sharp, and he's very fit. And I just get the impression that Liverpool are going to really go for it, actually, be quite aggressive and try and play in the front foot, because they're 2 wins from winning the league. They want to go and do that as quickly as possible. It's interesting, like it's talking about the crowd, like it can kind of go one or two ways, because it definitely, Liverpool have found it hard going to Goodison. It's incredibly hostile. I mean, it is ferociously hostile. And I remember last year, they held Liverpool to a draw, which ultimately cost them the league. And I just remember the atmosphere that day was feral. They really didn't want it. They just wanted to stop Liverpool at all costs, which is that's just what the rivalry is. So you're removing that. So you'd have to say that's going to work to our advantage, or it should. But then the other thing about, when I look at Everton, I just think that they like being the underdog. They're that type of club. Like when they came to Anfield in the FA Cup, that was a massive opportunity for them to win and Anfield to break down. And they couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle the pressure of it, because they knew they were playing a team of kids, and they basically choked. They didn't like that feeling. It's not something that they're used to go into these games to be the favourites. And they were the heavy favourites, and they really didn't like it. So I think that that's why I expect them to play well on Sunday, Everton. I think they'll put a bit of a fight, like the fact that they're sort of, as Graham said, like it's a free swing. But in saying that, this is a great chance for Liverpool. The likes of Keita, the likes of Minamino. I don't think he'll start Minamino. I certainly think he'll start Keita. And this is a real chance for them lads to be on the pitch when Liverpool win the Premier League. 2 more wins. Play well on Sunday. Keep your place for Wednesday night. That could be the one. So he'll play as strong as possible, but it's the middle of the park, isn't it? So that's usually where you might see a little change up. I think if you're, that could be Keita in for maybe, I don't know. It's a toss up really between the usual 4 or 5 that he goes with. So it'll be interesting.
This is kind of a bit of a tangent, but for basically the first time in 3.5 months, I was in Dublin City, and surrounded by hundreds of people. Still, not anything close to being as full as what it usually would be. And for me, it was very unusual. It felt very strange for me. And these players have played in empty stadiums before. They, reserves, youth games get played at an empty Anfield. I'm sure they have done this before. Wouldn't have meant as much as this. So I'm just wondering, there's talk of a second wave of this coming, coronavirus again. I can't see next season being. I can't imagine them putting 60,000 people in the stadium. I just can't see it happening. So, I mean, this is for the both of you. I'll start with you first, Graham. Like, is this players are going to have to get used to? You saw the Bundesliga. It took them a couple of weeks to get used to it, to getting stuck in, and now it's starting to resemble something what we're used to. But then they could be doing this for 3 or 4 months, and then they're going to have to play in front of 60,000 again at some stage. I mean, it's going to happen eventually. So do you think football in general, the lack of a better phrase, it's going to be a bit weird, and it's nothing what we know of it being for the next 6 months in some ways?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think I'd be shocked if there's attendances in grounds at the start of next season anyway. I think there's an argument to be made for, like I was mentioning Anthony Gordon earlier on, I think there's an argument to be made to kind of start more players like that who play at a high level at under 23, because they're kind of used to playing in front of no one.
Yeah.
So when they go into these matches, it's not strange for them, as opposed to Mo Salah, who's used to playing in front of 60,000 every week. But again, I mean, I think perhaps one of the reasons you see the improvement in German football over the weeks is because players have just adapted to it. You know what I mean? I think it's one of those things when you walk into an empty stadium for your first match, it's weird. But when you walk into it for your fourth match, it's not as weird. You know what I mean? You kind of adapt to it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, again, but to answer your overarching question, I think they're going to have to get used to it, because I can't see full grounds certainly until the middle of next season at least. I would think.
Yeah, and Anto, I've got another highfalutin question for you here. This
favorite kind of question.
This to me, you know, it. I mean, I would have made a big effort to watch a lot of La Liga. I would have made a lot of Bundesliga, but it just doesn't have. I've tried, and it's just not really doing it for me. Like this, you know, hearing the players, and this is such a reminder now that football fans, without it, it's kind of pointless. Like, I'll watch Liverpool play, you know, on a desert island. I mean, wherever we're playing, whoever we're playing, I will watch Liverpool. But football has definitely lost something. So, do you think, and this is the highfalutin part, that this should be a line in the sand for now, for the future, that football fans there needs to be more respect shown to football fans around the world. No one should have to pay 50, 60 quid to get a ticket, you know, the standard ticket to go see you know, it's football jerseys. These things need to be monetized. You shouldn't have to pay 80 quid to buy a tracksuit for your lad for Christmas. Is this a moment now where you say, look what your product is when we're not here?
Yeah, I think it should be, but it won't be, in my opinion. And in actual fact, I think the capitalistic side of the game is going to get worse because of this.
The money.
Exactly, to make, and also, Anto, like, don't forget, when we start easing the restrictions, they start letting people back into the games, they're going to go back in their droves. Like, people will be straining at the leash to get back in, and that is the bottom line. So, yeah, and then look, as you say, it underlines the point that the games without the fans there, and the noise and the tribalism, like that's what it is. That's what sport is. It's an opportunity to express that passion that people have, that tribalistic nature that we all have inside of us. And obviously, without it, it's just not the same thing. It's weird, and it's hollow, and it's just a vacuum. We all know that, but in terms of like this being some kind of watershed for like the money men to sort of go, oh, you know what, we weren't treating them very well, and maybe we should be nicer. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, just purely because the demand will still be the same. People will be knocking down the door to get back in, and they will pay the prices, and they will buy the merchandise, and the show will eventually get back on track and roll on. I mean, look, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how I feel at the moment. I don't see how there will be any major change. I think once we get back to normal, very quickly, it will just be as it was before.
Yeah, it's sad but true. Graham, what can Everton realistically do in the last 9 games, whatever they have? Because something's got to give in the Premiership for the next nine games. You know, someone's going to have a ridiculously good run. Someone's going to fall apart and not be able to adapt to this. Everton, I think, are about 7 points away from a European spot. Is it realistic that they could actually turn this into a fantastic opportunity coming back into this situation, or do you think Ancelotti's just going to play it out and just wait for next season?
Well, Ancelotti's come out and said that he wants to achieve Europe this season. So that's the challenge that he's kind of laid out to the players. But I think, I'm not sure if fortunate is the right word, but we're in a position now where between now and the end of the season, we've nothing necessarily to gain or lose, right? We're pretty secure in mid-table currently. So I would suggest that Ancelotti is just going to use this time just to kind of prep for next season. And I think that's what he should be doing. He should be looking at all the kind of fringe players. Young Lewis Gibson went out on loan. He's a very promising young centre-half. I mentioned Anthony Gordon on the right wing as an attacking midfielder, Dennis and Denarian. So these are the players that he should be looking at over the next 9 games to say, do I need to go into the transfer market in the summer? We're all predicting less big transfer fees, more loans, etc. So I think the attitude would be basically go out without pressure in these remaining 9 games, do the best you can, and if that gets us Europe, great, we'll take it. If not, we'll just prepare for next season.
Okay. And Anto, I was all in for the potentially 107 points, I think it was, that Liverpool could amass if they, I was all for breaking records left, right and centre. And then it was just, when the null and void thing was on the table, I thought, I don't care how we do it now. The Champions League is gone. The FA Cup is gone. Where do you stand? Does this Liverpool team go all out and try and break every record there is, or do you try and slowly try to blood the likes of Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott and Larouci into the team?
Well, I think what maybe has dictated a little bit is the fact that their transfer plans have changed a lot now because of this, so that they might have to use the rest of this season to have a look at these lads, have more of a look at them, particularly say Minamino, Jones and Elliott, because they may now assume greater importance next season just purely because I think Liverpool were going to spend a fair bit of money this summer. You know, they weren't going to buy 6 players, but I think they were going to get Timo Werner, and they may have brought in one more pretty significant signing as well, and then maybe a squad player. Now that's changed because, as we know, the owners that we have, that's just, they don't recklessly spend. They work within a framework, and they're going to be very prudent and look at things long term. And it means they're probably going to spend less money in the summer. So that means that they're going to look to the likes of these guys in the squad that they already have. And I think they're going to put more of an emphasis on improving them and getting them ready to be proper assets for the first team next season.
Do you think Liverpool potentially then could get caught standing still when we've got one of the greatest teams we've ever had in the history of the club? That's not an exaggeration. Do you think that maybe then this is the time to just put your bets on and go for the, be ambitious and go for Havertz from Leverkusen? Or do you think, that's just the way it is? You just have to sit tight for a year.
No, I do. I absolutely do. I'd love to have seen Liverpool got Werner. I think we should have got him. I think they should have pushed the boat out and got him because, really, they haven't made a sign in 2 years now, really. Bar Minamino, but they haven't really made a big sign in 2 years. And as we know, it's very difficult to get to the top, but it's harder to stay there. And you always have, City are going to come back aggressively. Chelsea are they're developing into a very good squad. I think it's inevitable that Man United are going to kick back at some stage. So, you're right. You stand still and you're going backwards. So I really would like to see Liverpool go and bring in a big sign and just to freshen things up. It's not just it's not just the player that you bring in. It's the effect that a big quality player has on the rest of the squad. Keeps, especially that front three, which sort of pick themselves at the moment. So I think they should, and I hope they do. But I sort of fear that they might just, and look, they've got credit in the bank, don't they? They all do, the manager, the owners and everything, so you have to trust them. But I've got a feeling that they're going to be conservative again and back themselves to be good enough behind the scenes, the coaching setup and all that, to squeeze even more out of the squad. But that is risky. I agree with you, Anto. That is a risky strategy.
And Graham, I've heard names like James Rodriguez, and you've got to imagine Ancelotti has got some. He's got some star pulling power there. This is why Everton fans are excited. He is going to bring in a big name. It's just inevitable. What are some of the names that have been thrown around that maybe are realistically could come to Everton this summer?
Yeah, well, I think the difference between Liverpool and Everton is Liverpool have gotten themselves in a position which all great clubs should do, or all clubs at the top should do, where they only need to buy one or two people to improve the squad. I think Everton need to buy multiple people to improve the squad. We definitely need experience at the back. We don't. Michael Keane, I could see him leaving. There's talk of Thiago Santos, which he'll be 36 by the time next season kicks off. But I think he'll come in as just in a leadership role. That'd be great. We're going to have to get a midfielder, and there's been so many names linked. It's hard. You get bamboozled by all the names. I'm one of these people that until I see them holding an Everton jersey and shaking the manager's hand, I don't believe it. I'd be shocked if Ryan Fraser goes to Everton. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but
would you like to see him come?
Not particularly. I think we can do better than Ryan Fraser. He's had one, maybe half good season. To my mind, he's good on his day, but
do you keep Pickford? By the way, Little Arms Pickford.
No, I get rid of him. Not good enough.
Yeah,
not good enough. I'd love to go for someone like Donnarumma, who's at AC Milan now, young goalkeeper, great reputation. Yeah, Pickford, his mentality is not right. I don't think it's great because if he's not involved in the game, he wants to get involved in the game, and then he makes mistakes. And with arms that short, it's hard to reach the corner of the goal, isn't it? So, yeah, so I get rid of him. And I get rid of him now because I think he could still get good money for him.
Yeah,
you know, someone will buy him for 30, 40 million or something.
Can I throw something at you two lads? I'm gonna flip it around and say, Graham, if you were gonna get 3 players for Liverpool, realistic, like attainable players, who would you get? And Anto, if you were gonna do the same for Everton, again, you know, being realistic, sort of attainable, who would you get? Anto, you go first. If you were Everton manager, who are you going for?
Well, first of all, yeah, he has to get a new goalkeeper. Pickford seems to be just regressing. Pickford looks like he's got the wrong attitude as well. Looks like I remember seeing I was at the game at Old Trafford when Duncan Ferguson was in charge, and he was having banter with the Man United fans and smiling with them. It's like, mate, this is a Premiership game, like, and it's focus here. So I think the Donnarumma, that's a great show. I think that, because Ancelotti is gonna bring in someone that everyone's gonna say wow, and that's why, and everyone will be like, that's why we brought this man in. So I think that's a great show. As for Fraser, if he wants to come and they're already linked, I think he's a good player. I think he could be the player that they maybe thought Sigurdsson was going to be, just a real workhorse and pitch in with some goals from midfield. And then other than that, it's just a bizarre market, though. I mean, maybe a top level. Is Cavani a good show because he's a free agent as well? I know he's 33, but he just scores goals wherever he goes. And Thiago Silva from Paris Saint-Germain. I mean, those 2 lads that would come with a gigantic wage bill, but Ancelotti would get a tune out of them, and it'd be the same with James Rodriguez. So yeah, I'd go for Donnarumma in nets. I'd go ahead with the Fraser deal if they're going to get a good price from him, and then Ancelotti is going to pull something out of the hat. Maybe a Lozano from Napoli. There's talk he's had a fight with the president there. He's had a really good first season with Napoli. He played under Ancelotti, obviously, there. He was linked with Man United and Liverpool before he went to Napoli, so maybe that'd be a good move.
Yeah, I agree. I think as a priority, if I'm an Everton fan, I think goalkeeper, I agree. I don't fancy Pickford at all. All right, Graham, what do you think? Liverpool, who are you bringing in?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard one. I would bring in someone up front to kind of keep that front line competitive, keep Salah, Firmino, and who am I missing out? Salah, Firmino, and Sané on their toes. And obviously, Timo Werner would have been a good option. But someone, you're looking at an age profile of between 22 to 26, someone who's regularly scoring goals in their domestic league. Minamino might be that player. I don't know. Potentially. I was thinking about this earlier on. I think if any team's going to get at Liverpool, I think the way to do it might be to pin their full backs back. So keep Alexander-Arnold and Robertson back defending. So I think a full back is the area I'd be looking at for Liverpool.
Yeah.
Now, who do you get? I don't know off the top of my head, but they're the areas I'd be addressing anyway. Both left back, full back, just to provide that bit of competition. They're both great options, but again, they're better going forward than they are defending. So on those occasions, if and when they do get pinned back, it's good to have an option that maybe is more defensively aware or defensively responsible. So up front, I think midfield, you've got a crew there of about 5 or 6 players that you can easily rotate without much issue. I do think there is a reliance on Virgil van Dijk. If he gets injured for any length of time, are the replacements going to be up to the standard? So that's perhaps something else you can look at. Could Joe Gomez do it on a long-term, consistent basis? He looks like he could, but he's young, so you don't know. So, I without being able to name specific players, they're the areas I would address, particularly fullbacks.
I'm going to ask for a prediction in just a couple of minutes. We're going to wrap this up in a minute, lads. But first, Anto, the game in December where it was, I think, Silva's last game for Everton. Can we draw any clues from that regards what's going to happen this time? You know, Origi got his customary couple of goals against Everton, and I think Shaqiri had a field day that day as well. Is there anything we can draw from that? I mean, it was a different manager, obviously, but it was pretty much the same set of players, or is this just a completely different situation?
Well, it's a different situation, and I think Everton will be better because they were abject that night. But look, the one thing. Liverpool remain a better team than Everton. They're a better side than Everton. They're a better side than anyone in the league. So I think Liverpool, if they go and they express themselves and play the way they can, they're going to win the game. But I still think that it's so weird. You know, there's so many variables now. Given they haven't played in 3 months, there's no fans. That I don't know what's going to happen. So that's why I'm sort of erring towards it being a draw. Because I think Everton are going to be. I expect Everton to put up a decent fight. You know, I really do. Like, you know, they're not going to want to get.
I mean, we're the last game of the weekend, though, so we'll have seen a whole Premiership program. So by the time the derby kicks off, we'll have some idea of what the pace is going to be like. I mean, if all games are pretty mid-tempo, we can't imagine that we're going to be an exception, I suppose, is it?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And look, as come back to Graham's earlier point, like, it could be that the game, like, Arsenal against Man City started really well on Wednesday night, but then they kind of died and City just took control of the game. But it could be that the first 15, 20 minutes are a bit mad, a bit frantic. And then
there was a couple of injuries.
Yeah. Again, like, I mean, because the players have been out for so long, you just don't know. Like, it could be a nightmare situation where we have 2 lads pulling up with calf strains after 20 minutes. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see that though.
Graham, give me a scoreline. Give me what you think how the game's going to go.
I refer back to what I was saying earlier on. I think it's the hardest Merseyside Derby in history to predict due to circumstances. I suppose the head says a draw because, you know, the last 6 of the 7 Goodison derbies have been draws. But because it's a free hit, because it's no pressure, I'll say we'll win 2. Be optimistic.
All right. And Anto, how do you see the game going? And what give me a score?
I think it's going to be a scrappy game, and I think Everton will be dogged. And because there's less pressure on them, I always think that suits Everton, and I think they're going to get a draw. I'm going to say 1-0.
I think the substitutions are going to be key in this game. I think Liverpool got a very strong bench to call from now, and I think we're going to edge it. But I don't think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a great game to watch as usual. So that's it, lads. Our first game that we've ever actually got to talk about contemporary football without referring back to the 80s and the 90s. Thanks again for Graham joining me and Anto as usual. We're going to try and do another pod next week where we maybe talk about the first game back after 105 days out. So that's it. Thanks a million for listening. Thanks a million to the lads, and hopefully next time we talk to you, we're 1 win away from getting the first Premier League in 30 years. Thanks a lot.